helping the body to heal itself so that it can be strong again and function again, is a concept that's been happening all over the world ancestrally for all of time. And Western medicine, as we know it today, has become very reductionist. It's very much like treat the symptom, but they don't consider how it's all connected. All we do is prescribe meds that will just take care of the symptom, but the chemicals still go to all the other parts of the body of the medications. That's why you get all these side effects, which are really just other effects, undesired effects.
Stay tuned, stay curious. Enculturation Podcast.
Dr. Marisa Sum, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate you coming on this way and taking time out of your schedule to be here on the show and talk all things Chiro.
Thank you so much, Vin, for having me. I'm so excited to be here on Enculturation Podcast.
Yeah, welcome to the show. And yeah, so let's start out with your origin story. Like why chiropractor, and why not other physical modalities such as like something more muscular based, massage based, or even movement based?
Sure. So actually, my whole life, I've been knowing that I wanted to be in the healthcare field. So that's a great question because I actually pursued many different ones. From the young age of 13 years old, I knew that I wanted to be in healthcare. I knew I wanted to help people in that particular way. And my mom, she saw a homeopath and naturopath while I was growing up. And so she realized through her naturopath that she was gluten intolerant back in 2003, when nobody knew what gluten-free was. And so my family went gluten-free, and I just felt so weird, right? But I noticed that my mom was getting better, and my ancestors, my grandparents, both my Chinese and Japanese grandparents, would always instill in us, always remind us to eat our vegetables, eat our chicken, our protein, eat healthily, and eat just enough, and exercise and do movement. So I was actually adopted into this very natural health way from a young age. My father is a chiropractor as well. He never actually tried to push chiropractic onto me. He really wanted to support me to do what I wanted to do, but I did go to UC Davis, and then I got my Bachelor's of Science degree in nutrition, in clinical nutrition there, because I thought, maybe I'll help people with their health through food, since it felt so natural to me through my family. But actually, I was really disappointed with my education there because it became just completely about tertiary care of how to treat somebody once they've already gotten diabetes. And it's not to help heal them from diabetes or chronic disease. It was completely to what kind of, how many macros would they need just to survive? Or if you have a burn victim, there's a lot of focus on burn victims and what would you need to feed them through a feeding tube to keep them alive. It was not about healing or preventative care. And that's really what I was looking for originally. In any case, I graduated from UC Davis with my clinical nutrition degree. I didn't want to become a dietitian, which is usually the next step for those people. And I decided, all right, I'm going to look into other healthcare fields. I started volunteering with medical health services around the Bay Area in San Francisco, Oakland, giving things to the homeless and things like that, resources, medical resources. And then I started volunteering at Highland Hospital's ER and the Oakland County, the Alameda County Hospital. And I love that because the teaching atmosphere was amazing that they have there. It was all very exciting, very do or die. You gotta act now or lives are on the line, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. I love being of service, helping people in the moment. But after a year of being there, I really started seeing the cracks in the system, in the healthcare system. It felt so inefficient. People were coming for all different kinds of for all different kinds of health reasons that were being called emergent, whether it be a hernia, whether it be a diabetic coma, which is emergent, and then gunshot wounds, broken limbs and things like that. But it was all being processed in a way where these people didn't have the funds to try to take care of themselves beforehand. And then they would end up in the emergency room. And then the emergency room, especially in Alameda County, in an Alameda County emergency room, it's largely paid by tax dollars, by the people. But then, so you got people who just couldn't pay for the bus fare to come to the hospital to get the diabetes medication, falling into a diabetic coma, right? So it's like all they needed was like a pill, like their pills, right? Their prescription. They couldn't afford it with the way that the healthcare system is. And so they fall into a diabetic coma at home, and then we use the ambulance to pick them up, bring them to the hospital, and then we revive them back to life, and then give them a month of prescription and send them back home until they fall into another diabetic coma and come back to the hospital. It was like so inefficient financially and time-wise. I just thought, I'm not going to last in this environment. I really want to see people heal, because that's what my grandparents, my ancestors always taught me, that our bodies are smart and you just need to feed it the right things and it'll take care of you. So anyway, I worked at other healthcare offices, and I just felt really lost. And I went on a hike with my dad, and I asked him, Dad, what should I do? I really want to help people, but I don't know how, and this isn't the way for me. And then he finally said to me, he said, oh, well, why not chiropractic? And I was like, what? Oh yeah, that thing that you do. Oh, And that finally, it came full circle. And I started going to Life Chiropractic College West in Hayward. And honestly, I was really, I felt really embarrassed to be there, because culturally, in this mainstream healthcare, Western medicine healthcare environment, chiropractors are very marginalized. They're very ostracized, usually socially, there's a taboo around it. And, I didn't even know much about my own dad's practice. And so for me to have gone from UC Davis, studying clinical nutrition and doing laboratory work and all this stuff, to now going to chiropractic school, for some reason I had all this indoctrination in my mind that this was weird. However, every day that I kept showing up to class, and every day I kept learning more and more about how the body works, because that's what they were teaching us. It's a complete doctorate program, learning all the physiology and radiology, anatomy, biochemistry, all of it. It kept making sense. It kept making sense that the nervous system controls everything in the body. That your brain, we all know this on some conceptual level, that the brain controls everything in our body. But no one ever talks about how. It's through the spinal cord. And so every day I kept showing up to class, and every day I kept receiving truth, downloading just truthful, honest. It felt like the most honest healthcare education that I could have. It's very simple, even complex and simple at the same time, of connecting the whole body through all the body's systems and how do they work in harmony together. And I fell in love eventually. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this explains this beautiful vessel that we each have, how this thing functions and how we can give to it so that it can keep giving back to us and carrying us through our life, right? And so by the time, maybe halfway through school, finally, I was like, all right, yeah, I'm going to be a chiropractor. This is awesome. And that's part of why I'm actually so excited to be here with you on this podcast, is because part of what I aim to do is to help shift that cultural mindset on what chiropractic is, or what chiropractic was, what chiropractic can be. And really, like, even it's not even about the word chiropractic. It's about the essence of what's going on and what the purpose is inside.
Yeah, is that all that you explained to me, which is fascinating? Is that common knowledge or common study material or information that's available once you pursue the path of being a chiropractor, or is that more so recent new studies or new research have kind of geared towards that understanding?
I would say it's actually been an understanding that chiropractic education has been teaching since pretty much when it started
Okay.
in the late 1800s in 1895 by David Palmer in Canada. He was a magnetic healer. It was a time when, it was the like medical revolution, right? 1800s to 1900s, and a lot of philosophers and medical people like figuring out health sciences and stuff. And this man, he met this janitor who was deaf, and the janitor asked for help. Mr. Palmer, he had been noticing the pathways, the connections inside of a person's body. And so he moved the vertebra, the top vertebra in the spine of this man. And then his hearing came back. And so from that point forward, he was mapping the nervous system, how the nerves come out. And so this is common knowledge for chiropractors, and it is easily accessible if you go to chiropractic college.
Okay, yeah, so that's very insightful, and I think that speaks to the point of why it's so good to have you on the show, because my understanding of what can be obtained through a chiropractor is really just like on the base level. The words that come to mind is alignment and misalignment, right? Like you're kind of like shedding a lot more details into what the essence is versus like what the visual representation of it is,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the visual representation through the pandemic, like all the TikTok videos and until today. Wow. Yes, there's a lot of visual representation of the auditory too, right? Of the popping sounds and crunching sounds, and it's really like boom, really, it's a lot. It's cinematic almost, and also visually, something that I want to dispel or shift is that it's there's a lot of weird sexy videos about chiropractors on YouTube. They always get this hot female model and this chiropractic dude and and I don't know. It's really bro-y and stuff. But again, I really want to get to the essence of what we are doing, what the aim is, the purpose, and how it can help people and why it's so profound.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So I see that you do something called Quantum Spinal Mechanics, right?
Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit more on that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there are 26 vertebrae in the spine, and there are some chiropractors who they only adjust the top 2 bones in the spine because of the way that neurologically our proprioceptive, the way that our brain sets ourselves up in space, where our head is up and our body is below us rather than, tilted in other ways. It really is controlled by the upper 2 vertebrae, and it sets the tone of the positioning of the rest of the body. So there are some chiropractors, they're called upper cervical chiropractors. They only adjust the upper vertebra of the spine, like I said. And Quantum Spinal Mechanics is a branch off of those chiropractors where I'm only adjusting occiput, the skull, C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it's a very gentle approach. It's not at all, you're not going to hear any popping sounds. There's no, I tell the kids it's popcorn. There's no popcorn in the spine when we do this adjustment. We lay someone on their side and we prop them up so that their spine is as even as possible.
Yeah.
And then I just use my hand here very gently and put light pressure on the sides of the vertebra to help shift the relationship of the bones. And what's so powerful about that adjustment is the sides of the bones are where all the ligaments and tendons in the neck and head connect to. So if you can imagine bone, any rough edge on a bone is going to be where tendon and ligament like latch onto the bone, and like rough, it's like in the bone. So the ends of the bones, they're like little points up here in the neck. And so there are lots of ligaments, and tendons. That's how we raise our shoulders. The muscles, they originate from up here and they go down to our shoulders, to our chest, to our traps, to our back. And that's how we move everything up here. Is the bones are there, the muscles and tendons connect to the bones. And then what moves muscle?
What moves muscle?
What moves muscle?
Nervous system?
Yes, good job. Good job. Because the muscle is just like meat, right? But the brain is sending an electrical signal, a synapse, by way of these nerves that come out between the bones to the muscles. And so if the bone, it's this really beautiful connection and relationship, so important in here, in our midline, where if there's a mechanical pressure on the electrical wire of the nerve, it can slow down that electrical synapse.
That makes sense.
And then, right? And then impact the function of the muscle. And then at the same time, musculoskeletally, if the bones are rotated or out of alignment in a particular way, it can then shift the tendon and muscle connections and then make for tight muscles or stiffness, less range of movement. And so by adjusting the vertebra like that, not only am I aligning the vertebra, the bones, so that the muscles and tendons can relax, the musculoskeletal system, but also then the nervous system can also have more space. The wires can come through the bones and have more space to go and connect to the muscles to do what they need to do.
Wow, thank you for that download right there. There's a lot of points we can go off to. So what is the intersection of chiropractic and say physical therapy? 'Cause it seems closely related, but there's like a point of difference, right? So like where does the overlap begin and end, and what's like separates the two?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not a physical therapist, and I haven't been to physical therapy school, so I can't say for sure. But my understanding is that as chiropractors, we're focusing on the spinal alignment and the relationship of the spinal alignment with the nervous system, and how that nervous system then connects to all the other organs in our body. Because we're really focused on holism, right? Like we're holistic practitioners. So it's the whole body and how it's all connected. And the root is here. Our inner root, our brain, spinal cord, the central nervous system, and it connects out into our peripheral nervous system, into our body. Meanwhile, my understanding of physical therapists is that they're really focusing on the strength and release of muscles, of muscle tissue. And so that's why they focus more on doing exercises with folks, teaching them like biomechanics, almost like how to move their body, help them reconnect to their muscular skeletal system by helping them with movement, by helping them retrain, like rehabilitate from an injury, from a stroke, for example, or from a broken, torn ligament, broken bone, how to move their biomechanics again, or stretch the musculoskeletal system. So, I think the main difference there is that they're really just focusing on the musculoskeletal system. I think there are some DOs, doctors of osteopathy, that they do some spinal manipulations. And again, then doctors of osteopathy, they're a bit more holistic as well in their approach. But really, chiropractors our main thing, our focus is really the spinal alignment, because of the relationship of the spine housing the central nervous system, and then how the nerves come out between the bones through the foramina, the holes in the vertebra, and then how those nerves go to the rest of the body, not just the musculoskeletal system, but also your stomach, your esophagus, your large intestine, your bladder, the uterus.
Yeah. So when might be a clear indicator to go see a chiropractor based on all that you're describing?
I think posture is a big part of it.
Okay.
And that's like a very easier indicator. I think what we do at my office at Kaname Chiropractic is very much like the science of posture. And we're focusing on that. And so in that sense, any person off the street, if you just notice someone's posture, that their head, that their inner ear is forward from their shoulder, the point on their shoulder, then that's a clear sign that already something is going on there. And so it's not just, and then we go deeper, right? The ear is forward from the shoulder, the neck is forward, the head is forward. But then as a chiropractor, we go deeper and look at the nerves and the bones that are being impacted by that, how the nerves that come out of the upper neck, they go into the face. They go into your mandible, and then also the ligaments and tendons in the jaw connect to the upper vertebra. And so anyone who has like TMJ issues, or they have pain, or they can't chew well, that's actually related to their skull and their neck because of the way that our mandible hooks into our skull, and our skull sits on top of our spine. So an easy way to consider, like, should I go to a chiropractor, is just notice your posture. And I think that's super important nowadays with tech neck, right?
Yeah.
We were just talking about tech bros, right?
Yeah.
Like tech neck. The whole world is getting tech neck, right?
Yeah.
And we are leading the charge in the West, right? And
Yeah.
and especially after the pandemic, I called the pandemic COVID couch syndrome, because most people weren't prepared, and most people were on a laptop, students, parents, school teachers, people working in business, on laptops, on their sofas, like this. And
Yeah.
so I call this shrimping, in fact, like everyone's shrimping. And then coming out of the pandemic, reportedly so many people have been saying, oh, I don't feel the same ever since. Everyone's talking about the humps on the upper back, right? That's actually swelling. That's a sign that your spine is hurt. Just like if you were to get hurt in any other part of your body, there's going to be a swelling response. And so if there's swelling on the spine, that's another good indicator. Most people, they'll get swelling on the upper back nowadays, or in the low back. So if you notice, just touch yourself, touch your upper back. Notice, do you feel any spongy spots of fluid?
I'm not sure, but it feels potential, but nothing obvious.
Right? It should, because it's supposed to be like clear skin, muscle, bone, right? But if there's any other softness there, it's swelling. And then if you touch your low back as well, where the pelvis hooks into the lumbar spine, if there's any padding there, that's going to be swelling. And so those are other signs that your spine has a misalignment. It's irritated. Your spine is overworked. The biomechanics are off. And so it'd be a good idea to go see a chiropractor.
Yeah, all these are great points. So, like, what do you think is the intersection between modern day life and the effects of modern day life, and how often you see a chiropractor, or like, can seeing a chiropractor even overcome the habits of modern day life? Because it seems like we're constantly putting our bodies into this thing, only to like get relief, only to put our bodies into this thing again, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the world we're living in. I think it's this is a really important intersection at this time for body healing and because of our modern day life. I like to always reference the past and history when I think about how we got to where we are today, and like what's happening today in our lives. Cars, people have only been driving cars like on a mass scale since like the 1940s, 1950s. Even before that, like only some people had cars, or you had one family car or something like that. But ever since the 1950s, it's like now there's a lot more cars. Humans, our bodies are ancient. Our bodies are ancestral wisdom, have been around for we don't even like hundreds of thousands, millions, I don't even know. So many years, right? But we've been driving cars on a mass scale for maybe 70, right?
Yeah.
And so and then the phones, that's only been maybe like 20, 30 years, right? The laptops, we're all starting to like, we've all invented these things and tried them out, and then we're getting impacted and realizing the effects and what we need to do to improve on the design, hopefully one day, right? We can innovate these things, right?
Yeah.
And so we're at that time where everyone has now become much more aware of the impact of technology on our bodies. And for those of us that decide to live in this kind of modern day lifestyle where we live a life of convenience, we can just go from our sofa to the car, to the store, back to the car, back to the sofa, right? We don't have to dig anything in the dirt or like water anything, grow it, wash. We don't even, it's a life of convenience is what we're choosing. And so with that like understanding and acknowledgement and acceptance of our choice, then we also must remember the rules of nature, because we are a part of nature. And this body, this natural being, needs flow, like cardiovascular flow, neurological flow, lymphatic flow. There needs to be movement in the joints. That's why there is not a single part of the human body that is a straight line. We are completely made of curves and arcs, because we're made for movement like a ball. And so for us to have so much sedentary time and be not like a ball, right?
Yeah, it's funny because like on the evolution chart of us going from primates to now, it's like walking on two legs. Now we're just like this.
Back and shrimp. We're shrimping.
Yeah.
We're shrimping. Don't shrimp. Watch out. Look out for the shrimps in your life. Okay. It's common, not normal. Common, not normal.
Oh, I like how you said that. Common, not normal.
It's common, not normal. It's become extremely common now. And so the work that we do at my office at Kaname Chiropractic is specifically to correct the whole spinal alignment. And then, so that means not just like one area where it's hurting. We're not that kind of chiropractor. We are like orthodontists of the spine. So if like teeth, right? And you want to align them. Why? Why do we do that? The underlying purpose, I believe, is so that the nerves going to each tooth are clear, as a clear path, so that teeth don't overcross too much and like hit the nerve and you lose the tooth.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Right? Like there has to be like a better purpose other than aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
Like for function, right? And so the spine is very similar. There's all these bones, and then we have nerves running through them. And if the bones go too far out of alignment in any which way, then it's going to hit the nerve. And then there's going to be problems, right? And the problems would actually result as the symptoms in other places of the body. And so the type of chiropractic we do is specifically to take people who are stuck. Their body has now, there's swelling around the joints, there's scar tissue holding the bones in this stuck position too. That's why there's such deep stiffness, and people can't just like stretch their way out of it or exercise their way out of it. It feels too dense. That's because there's scar tissue around the spine itself. As a protective measure, we release that scar tissue and we correct the alignment, and then something really magical starts to happen, where people start to have more awareness of their posture. And my understanding of it, my experience after practicing for 9 years and doing this, is that when a bone presses on a nerve, like if this is the nerve and the bone is choking it because of the misalignment, the nerve is literally going to start to wilt. Like it's not going to get as much, there's not as much signaling going through it. And we feel the world through our nerves too, right? Not only do we output movement, but we sense the world through our nerves. And so if this nerve now is cannot synapse, the ions aren't moving through it as easily, you start to just not be aware. You can't be aware, can't connect to the joint itself anymore. You don't feel it anymore. And so as we open we introduce movement in the joint again, get the pressure off the nerve, then there's more signaling through the nerve, and the prefrontal cortex and the somatosensory cortex can now connect to the nerve better and have more awareness of where you are in space and posture. So every single one of my patients, every single one, after they've been under care with me for even 2 weeks, they just start to say to me, wow, doc, I just want to be upright. Like it hurts actually when I do this.
Yeah, that's amazing. So with that said, there's obviously a big emphasis on the spine, right? What are your thoughts on spinal decompression, whether it's passive hangs or even hanging from your neck at times?
Sure. I think it is helpful.
Yeah.
I think it just needs to be done with some caution, you know, as I think people who would be doing it with, right? Like, especially if you're going to do from the neck, enter into the space gently and not just like drop down, right? Yeah. Decompression, the table, just gently making your way there. If there are concerns for folks who have high blood pressure or cardiovascular disease, because if they flip back too fast, then they might release a clot or something might happen.
Interesting, yeah.
Or they might have too much of a blood pressure rush,
Yeah.
Get too lightheaded and stuff like that. So those are the concerns, but otherwise I think it's helpful. But even still, to like, imagine scar tissue.
Yeah.
Imagine you get a cut on your skin and then scar tissue grows. Right? That tissue is fibrous. It's tough. It's like duct tape. That's what's left behind after inflammation. So the body's way, the immune system responds to any kind of injury with inflammation. You break a bone, you tear a ligament, whatever. Tear a tendon. There's gonna be there's gonna be swelling. And then the body's going to start to try to leave behind scar tissue to patch it up. It's the body's patch-up mechanism. So same thing with the spine. The spine goes out of alignment. The tissues in the area are now being stressed. The nerves are being stressed. Swelling occurs on the spine. That's the hump again. And then scar tissue is going to lay down around the vertebra. And eventually that scar tissue is going to turn to calcification, actually. And that's the arthritis process, where it ossifies to try to hold you, to try to support the joint, because it's not well supported. It's not in space in like a well way of moving. So then the body naturally starts to calcify and try to support like that. But so now you have duct tape on your spine.
Does not sound pleasant.
Right? And if you've ever heard of like spinal surgeries, a very common one is where they take away the calcification. They cut away the calcification around the nerve in the hole of the bone, because the calcification will like start to squeeze the bone like this. So they just cut the bone away to try to open the space for the nerve again. Right? And it works 50% of the time. Now, that's why, spinal decompression tables and things like that is helpful, because you're trying to do movement, but like underlying that scar tissue is so dense. And again, there's 26 vertebrae in the spine, and each vertebra has 6 joints. So there can be that many different types of misalignments. And so in my office, we take x-rays of each patient. We do a full neurological and orthopedic examination of their spine and body. to see what's going on, to see if they have a misalignment in their spine. And if they do, then we take an x-ray, a full spine x-ray. That way I don't have to do any guessing. I see exactly where their alignment is at, where their fixations are, where the scar tissue is holding their spine and space. And then that way we can actually correct the alignment. And so we take post x-rays about 2 months into care to witness where their structural system is now. And how do we respond? How do we keep moving them forward in the right direction to correct the curves, the natural curves of the spine, or if they have scoliosis, how to start unwinding the spine to make it more in alignment this way so that there's not compression of their lungs and ribs and things like that. So along this journey, I witness people, they really get more awareness of their posture and they start to feel empowered actually to do more. It's sort of like if you've ever, you know how when you exercise in the morning, you exercise in the morning one day and you feel so good, right? Mm-hmm. And then it like actually encourages you to keep making healthier choices.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that. And so I'm like, this is like the ultimate biohack. As I just get in there neurologically with folks, wake up their nervous system, people feel so much better and more like connected to their body because their nerves are open and released and functioning again. And then they're like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I'm inspired to eat healthier.
Yeah.
And exercise.
Yeah, that's a good point. Having more awareness for these things, right? So earlier you mentioned tech neck and also what happens to our bodies driving in a car, which is a relatively recent in the human history timeline. What are some other modern day hazards that someone should be aware of and maybe start taking into consideration? Like, obviously I drive a lot or I'm always on the computer. What are some of those other things that someone might go through, whether it's sitting on the couch or maybe even having a baby, for example, right?
Yeah, all that. Exactly those things. Sitting on the sofa. Oh my gosh. Sofas are really harmful for our spines. You know, they don't grow on trees. I'm really in the belief that we are a part of nature and that we are actually, there is abundance and health and wellness all around us actually. And so if sofas grew on trees, then I would think, oh, this is going to be really good for me, right? But it's man-made and, you know, our limited minds only know so much. And again, we're going to constantly be innovating things, right? So yes, sofas, video games. Oh my gosh, gamers, go see a chiropractor. You don't even need to check your posture. We already know. And those gaming chairs suck. They suck. They're really not good for your posture. And I know that you gamers know it because you're in pain. And the drivers, any kind of driver, Uber driver, truck driver, mothers. Oh my gosh, if you know a mother or a person who has a baby in your life, have them go see a chiropractor. Just having to hold the baby itself, it leads us to hunching over. And then I know that that parent is also probably on the phone at the same time. So it's like double hunch, double shrimp happening here, double shrimp action. And then the spine hardens. So many women, mothers. Okay, so when women are pregnant, this hormone comes out into their bodies naturally called relaxin, to relax the ligaments in their joints so that they can transform and shift space to grow this baby inside of them. So they're loose, right? But then when the baby comes out, that relaxin stops producing in their body and they start to harden. Their ligaments harden again. That's why so many women, if you think of your elder women in your life, your grandmothers, your aunties, and your mothers and things like that, a lot of them look kind of like a little ball. Like this, because they were pregnant and loose and then the baby came out and then they were carrying the baby and breastfeeding the baby maybe and having to hunch over like this 24/7 for years. And then meanwhile, that relaxin hormone stopped producing and their ligaments solidified in that position. And then so many elder women feel disabled, like they feel like they're not capable of doing all the things they used to do. Like there's so many elder women who will say things like, oh, I was just never the same after your uncle was born, or things like that. Or, oh no, I can't do that. I can't go hike that. Or they count themselves out because they don't feel physically able. And a lot of that is actually their musculoskeletal and their nervous system are basically kind of shut down and warped. So they don't feel physically strong anymore. And then, we get scared for our elder women, like, oh, like, what about osteoporosis and stuff? But they don't feel safe themselves to even be doing those kinds of exercises. So I think a big way to like love on women in our society, or parents in our society, is to support them to get chiropractic care to correct their spinal alignment. So then that way they can actually really enjoy this, like these other chapters of their lives with their kids, with their grandkids. They're physically upright, biomechanically safe and sound, and they can like engage and actually be able to take care of themselves and maintain their independence more.
Yeah, that's really insightful. I have noticed that too, but I didn't really put one and one together about like what the cause of it. I kind of just accepted that this is just how things are, right?
Yeah.
What can somebody expect from, maybe in this case, since on topic of women giving birth, like what can they expect as far as like a full recovery or a full range, or what? Because how do you encourage someone with the possibility of transformation going into something, right? Versus like maybe they've already accepted this is how things are, and I'm getting older, and I just have to accept my age or my limitations, right? How do you like mentally support that into a new process?
Sure. Asking them, what do they want? But what do you want for your life now? Help re-inspire them to the opportunities that they have, that we all have at all times, that we might have our own limiting beliefs around because of trying to protect ourselves and things like that, but because of fear. But asking them like, but mom or auntie or friend or brother, like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to have kids? Do you want to, what do you dream of? Inspire them to dream. And if they're like, oh, I really wanted to get back into dancing. I never did. Or I would really like to hike that mountain. Or, it'd be really cool if I did that bike ride. Or, I would like to have kids one day. Anything, all of it, everything that a person does requires their body. And so they might have their limiting beliefs, but have them fall in love and be interested in that thing that is really sparkly for them, their dream, and inspire them to reach. Like, well, maybe you can do that hike. Maybe you can go back to dancing. We just need to get you safer in your body again so that you can be strong and do these things sustainably.
Yeah. How can emotional or mental trauma get stored in our bodies, and how does chiropractic help with that?
In chiropractic, we say that there are 3 causes of misalignments. One is physical trauma, so macro trauma like an accident, micro trauma like being on the laptop every day, hunching over in the shrimp. And then there are toxins, so heavy metals that get stored in our nervous system, aluminum, mercury, that can impact our nervous system. And then 3, thoughts, emotions. Because we are connected to ourselves, right? Our emotions are completely a part of our physical state, and vice versa. So when someone's angry or when they're sad or when they're scared, their body language is going to shift. They're going to be more like in protective mode, in survival mode, protecting their vital organs here, hunching over like this, if they're depressed or if they're sad or scared, right? And over time, that physical stress and the stress hormones in their body start to can keep them encapsulated like that. They start to grow scar tissue on their spine in that way and get stuck like that. And so as we release these areas in the spine for people, I notice that a lot of emotions start to come up. Emotions that have been around their heart. Let's say they were abused or they were abandoned, and there's a lot of pain around their heart, and they're protecting it like this, right? And then so they've got swelling here in their upper back, their head is forward, a lot of anxiety, doubt, fear. We start to release that area of the spine, and it starts to open up the pathway back to being upright physically, the neurological connections happening, but then also it is like a love letter to a person to stand in their power again. Even though that trauma happened, even though the abandonment happened, even though they were abused, whatever it is, yes, that happened to you. Yes, that is real. Also, you can take your life back. Only you can give that to yourself. And so it brings up their inner talk with themselves, their identity of their thoughts, right? I go, no, I am only, I'm not worthy. Like they left me, I'm not worthy. But then when they start to physically open up the area energetically, and in all ways, physically, spiritually, then there's a time where people face conflict with themselves and their stories. And so then that usually draws up, a lot of emotions like, oh my gosh, like maybe can I be more? Can I be loved? Can I move forward with my life? Can I dream again? Right? Maybe, and then it starts to shift their perception of the experience as well. I think like a little bit of space around it. Like, yes, that happened. It was terrible. And I'm growing now. And I've realized that was the other person's stuff, not mine. And I'm still whole. I am always whole. That's what I witness happen for people when their spine gets into better alignment again. And they release these stuck places, wherever the trauma went in their body, their low back, whatever, they have to confront it again and reshift their narrative. And then that's where the growth comes and the healing.
Wow, that's amazing. And what would you say how the nervous system relate to mental health?
The nervous system is this amazing thing that we all have, where it does our physical experience of the world, is how we move, is how we sense the world through our senses here in the head, and our hands, the air, like all of it. It goes into our brain so that our brain knows where we are in space, and our nervous system, our brain, controls our thoughts and our emotions, or it sends hormones out into our body so that our body can respond to the emotions that we're feeling. That's why we feel the fluttering in our belly, because that's serotonin that's made in our belly. Or that's why we feel our heart racing, because that's the adrenaline from the excitement or the fear that our brain is signaling into our body to start producing, and then it makes our heart pump. On TikTok during the pandemic and Instagram, everyone started noticing or talking about the fight or flight nervous system, right? Mm-hmm. Chiropractors and people who are into body work and healing and things, like, we know about the different kinds of nervous systems that we have, the switches, the neurological switches we have in our body that help us experience what we do in our lives.
Would a misalignment of your spine promote one particular response over another? So say if my spine was really misaligned, would it promote more of a flight response?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So the fight or flight is there, the sympathetic nervous system is there in us to help us survive, a stressful situation. It's survival mode. The fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system nodules are largely around our thoracics. They're right in the mid part of our spine here. And then the opposite, the rest and digest nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system lives in our upper neck, upper cervicals here, and then in our sacrum, in our pelvis. And so if there's a misalignment on the parasympathetic nervous system, on our upper cervicals or in our sacrum, it can basically inhibit or slow down or stop the ability for us to switch into rest and digest, switch into parasympathetic nervous system, that's how we heal. Because it's rest and digest. It helps us take naps. It helps us sleep through the night. It helps us send blood into our internal organs so that the internal organs can receive nourishment from the food that we ate that day, and then detox the liver and make everything all clear and clean again. Now, if there's a misalignment up here, which is what up here in the upper neck and in the sacrum are what I see the most in people nowadays. And I'm sure it's from the sedentary lifestyle, from the modern day lifestyle of sitting on our butts, on our pelvis, torquing the pelvis over time, and then pulling the nerves out of alignment, and then the head being forward, the ear being forward from the shoulder, and then getting stuck like that. And it presses on the parasympathetic nervous system. And then it leaves us in a more fight or flight state, leaves us in survival mode where the mind is racing. And that's why we can't sleep at night. We stay up till 3 a.m, right? And then we are fatigued all day. And then we're grabbing coffees and energy drinks and carbs, sugary things just to stay awake.
Yeah.
And then also up here, that would lead us to anxiety. It would lead us to an anxious and more depressed state because our brain and our body isn't getting that time to relax. We're constantly in this like fear mode, like, uh-oh, something's going to come get me, or I need to prepare for something. I can't rest. There's things to do, right?
Yeah.
And your nervous system is dysregulated at that point. And then people break out into like eczema and IBS.
That's so interesting because I never see the very real probability of all that you're saying happening, right? But the response as far as like how I'm going to personally address it or how people address it would be totally not addressing the root, but more so what you're doing as a result of the root, right? So for example, maybe I feel a certain way all the time. So I might get prescribed, I don't know, antidepressants or something, or something else that's totally not even anywhere nearly the root level.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I hope to educate folks about, is that the answers are right behind us. The answers are right inside of us. They're right behind us. They're right in here because the brain is connected to the body by way of the spinal cord. And we have these bones. And if the bones are pressing on that spinal cord, then it's going to impact the brain's ability to control everything in the body and regulate everything in the body, keep us in a place of homeostasis. And so then we're dysregulated and we have symptoms coming up. We can keep putting out all the little fires. You can keep replacing the tires on a car where the axle is off as the tires wear out, right? You can keep replacing them. But the axle, the root, is off. And so once you realign the center, the midline, then everything will work harmoniously again and be more sustainable and function like how it used to, how this vehicle used to, or maybe even better than it ever has. This is really about wellness care. Kaiser has their slogan about like something about like, being well. But for that model, like being well means like taking the least amount of medication maybe, or like being on your meds, getting your shots, getting your meds, and then you're well. But I'm trying to challenge all that. And like, how can you be so well? Like your energy is thriving, right? Where you don't need any assistance. You're completely sovereign in your body, completely whole, completely independent, and able feeling.
Yeah, that's really powerful. The takeaway that I'm getting, or the understanding I have from what you're saying, is having the relationship to your body, right? And yeah, I mean, there could be conversations on consciousness. What is consciousness? We are not our bodies and all that stuff, which I'm not going to get into right here. But I see the value in taking ownership of your body and having a relationship to it, and seeing what it's trying to tell you versus like what you're trying to tell it, right? Because I think it goes both ways, and being open to the idea that maybe I feel this way because of my body trying to tell me something, and not just this is purely a mental thing that I've developed into, right?
Yes.
And trying to like mentally solve it from a far removed approach, such as I don't know, taking some pills or something like that, right? Yeah. And also, or maybe separating, like identifying with this feeling that you're going through, that this is just who I am, or this is like my reality forever, right?
Yeah. Pain and dis-ease can be very isolating.
Yeah.
It can feel very isolating, very personal. Like it was just me, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
But actually, it's just your body telling you something. Our bodies are always talking to us. And yes, maintaining that relationship with ourselves of listening, like, oh, ooh, that hurts there. Or, oh, that was different, right? And then getting educated in this way of like, how does this amazing thing, this ancestral thing, how does it work? And so this is a big part of it, because this is the root. And being able to actually communicate with it, like, oh, that doesn't really feel good. And being soft with oneself, just like maintaining a relationship with a loved one. Like, oh, okay, let's talk about that. Let's revisit that. Let's nurture that, right? And then that way we can all be in harmony again with ourselves. And I think ultimately all of us really desire harmony in our hearts, right?
Yeah.
And being able to move forward that way.
Yeah, definitely. Like, what are your thoughts on the physical education in public schools? Because one thing I notice is, let's say you're in math class, right? For like level 1 math or grade 1 math to high school or college math, it's like a universe of a difference. Like, right, you go from what 1 + 1 equals 2 to calculus 3 or physics or whatever. It's like crazy amount of like the progress. But as far as I can tell, or what I've been exposed to in a public education sense, early on might be, hey kids, just run around, right? And then run around for 10 minutes, do your thing, come back. It might evolve into run a mile. If you're at this time, you're good. And it might see like, can you touch your toes? But it kind of stays at that level for 12 years. Right? I'm sure it varies from state to state or city to city, right? But what I've been exposed to, I kind of felt like after leaving the public education system, my understanding of the human body didn't really start until I had my own interest and my own relationship to it, right? But if we're talking about math, like upon leaving high school, my understanding of the human body or wellness and health is like 1 + 1 = 2. You know what I mean? Whereas we had 12 years to really develop that relationship, right?
That's a great point. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think my experience going through the public health education system here in the Bay Area in California and the United States is that, that it's like 1 + 1 = 2. It's like base, not even basic. It's like, it's such a lost opportunity. And I think it's different around the world. Like I know in Japan and China, they focus more on teaching kids about nutrients and vitamins and things like that in their foods, which is related to health education or physical education. I think it would be amazing if we taught people how their bodies work, because we all have one. I completely agree.
Yeah, I guess the the words that's coming to my mind right now is I feel like the experience I had was focused on being results driven. Like, can you run a mile in 7 minutes, right? But not being relationship oriented. Like, what does your body say? Like, maybe you're not meant to run a 7 mile, but why can't you run 7 miles? You know what I mean? Or 7 minutes mile, right? Is it because your posture, your alignment, something with your foot? There's all these things that's not really communicated versus just go harder, just more, rep more, right?
So true. And like, reach the goal. That's so true.
Yeah, one thing I really noticed interesting about your background is you have experience in bone setting, right? So what would you say is like some differences or even overlap between chiropractic and bone setting?
So chiropractic was born from this man in Canada, and he started chiropractic schools. Him and his son started chiropractic schools in Mexico, United States, Canada. And so that's where the chiropractic as we know it today was really born. However, as somebody who is ancestrally from the East, and my ancestors would always tell me about health and wellness and movement and alignment in their own ways, I knew that there was always something else going on, not just from what was happening here in the West, in the US with chiropractic. And I speak Spanish. I speak Spanish with a lot of my patients, and I've learned from them that they see what are bone setters basically and holistic healers in their own communities from the indigenous communities of these lands here. They're called huasteros, sobadores. In the Philippines, they're called hilot. In Japan, bone setters are called seikotsu. In China, I forget the word, but they have their own bone setter as well. In Thailand, there's Thai massage. They're standing on your back and they're moving your bones on your back, right? So like bone setting in general and body work in general, healing, helping the body to heal itself so that it can be strong again and function again, is a concept that's been happening all over the world ancestrally for all of time. And Western medicine, as we know it today, has become very reductionist. It's very much like treat the symptom, separate the person. That's why if you have a heart problem, you see the cardiologist, right? If you have an arm problem, you see the orthopedist. If you have a sinus problem, you see the ear, nose, and throat person. But they don't consider how it's all connected, right? How there is a relationship within ourselves and our systems. And so I think actually that's part of why that system is failing and it's really falling apart. Like, I think there is a place for it for emergency. The United States is number one or something in the world for emergency situations. The emergency room here is where you want to be if you are about to die, right? But any other time of your life, the US ranks like close to number 40 of all the developed countries in the world and their efficiency in terms of health. So in the L&D, labor and delivery, in primary care, your GP, like all of that, we are so low because all we do is prescribe meds that will just take care of the symptom or separate the body part from something, right? But the chemicals still go to all the other parts of the body of the medications. That's why you get all these side effects, which are really just other effects, undesired effects, right? Yeah. Like even blood thinners, that's what's connected to Viagra. Like they just, turns out that happens. And so then that's why it's just considered side effects. It's there. You can't tell a chemical in your bloodstream to only go to one area. There are like SSRIs that go to only certain receptors, but still it's going to go all over your body and it's going to have other undesired effects in terms of that sales pitch. Now, again, if we rework the whole perspective and consider why is this going awry in my body? Why is this dis-ease happening? What is my body telling me? What do I need more of? What do I need less of? And how can I support my body to heal itself? That way of thinking has been happening all over the world for all of time. And the belief is in that the body is wise, the body is whole, we are whole, and how can we support this amazing thing in our life. And so chiropractic is like the Western iteration, I think, of that.
I see.
It's like David Palmer and all his followers, they were all people who were like, yeah, the body is connected to itself. How can we support it to do what it needs to do? Oh, the nervous system. And so I'm a self-proclaimed bone setter because I think it's so much bigger than the word chiropractic. It's really about, again, the essence of what's happening when you put alignment back into the body. The joints are all in alignment, not just the spine, the shoulders, the wrists, the ankles, the jaw, everything is in alignment, because in this planet on Earth, we are structure-based. We have form, right? And there's gravity happening upon us. And so we are resisting the gravity. On this planet, form dictates function. Form comes before function. If the form of something is off, then the function of it is not going to be as optimal, right? We are the same. If you want to make it mechanical, right? Like the form of this thing will dictate the function. And so the point of the bone setting, of the body work, is to improve the function of the body, have results, but also it's a relationship. It's both with ourselves, and to know oneself even deeper in that way.
Wow, that's incredible. That was quite the explanation. Would there be any type of different lens from one or the other, or is it like just different entry points towards the same source? For example, would bone setting be more other joints outside of the spine, or something even related to spiritual health even,
Sorry, can you say the question one more time?
When someone might consider going to chiropractic versus going to the east and finding a bone setter, right? Yeah. Is it because chiropractic on the west has certain things that it prioritizes, whereas bone setting on the east has these other categories that should be considered too? Like what are those other categories, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think there's value in both.
Yeah.
The thing that I value as a chiropractor here in the US, is that we have the technology, what we can call the modern technology of x-rays. So then that way I can actually get to see the exact alignment and orientation of every single vertebra in the body or joint in the body. And then that way I can be even more specific as to my approach and like which bone am I going to move and in which direction, how much force. I don't have to guess so much. What I value about it is that it allows all parts of me to be included. My logical, rational mind of how the structural system is set up. Also my intuitive sense in my gut, in my heart, in my spirit of what is happening with this person emotionally or spiritually. Are they drained? Are they full? Also, I can use my hands as senses for touch to know, is this person inflamed? Is there chemical imbalance, hormonal imbalance, nutritional imbalance? So I get to use all parts of me, which I really love, because that's the relationship I have with myself. To get to use all parts of me to be able to assess what's happening and be present in this moment with this person and be able to do what is most useful for this person. I think in the other ways without x-rays, bone setting without x-rays, they're really so tuned in with their intuitive sense. And, I can't speak to it because I don't do that exactly the way they do it, right? I'm not a sobador, right? And they use like earth. They use leaves and oils and tinctures and things like that, earth medicines, plant medicines, which I really actually highly value. I don't do that. I don't offer that in my services, but I think that's super highly valuable. But the value of chiropractic is that we're able to see the bones along with using all those other senses at the same time. And so in that sense, actually, I have this whole thought in terms of anthropology and like how we came to this point in space and time and technology, right? In terms of health technology, if we want to call it that. People were doing bone setting and healings of their own kinds for so long. I think there is a colonial point where people came in and like said, oh, that's all dumb. And like, no, and just like wiped it out and killed all the medicine women and things like that. I think there is that. And then they created their own way, reductionist way. But then like still kind of finding, now we're like kind of going back. We're like blending, we're integrating finally, like realizing, oh, but that way is also not the only way because it's not working. People are really unwell doing that way. And so now we're like kind of going in between, you know, integrating, like, because so many Western people have found so much value in Eastern and ancestral wisdom and healing modalities. And then a lot of like Eastern ancestral wisdom, like communities, like even in China, like they still use Western modalities too. So somehow we're all as a people, as beings, as a species, trying to figure out like what is the way, how can we do this most efficiently, most with least harm, you know, things like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me in the perspective, like if medicine or information could be considered as food, so something that you can consume, the food of the East or the food of the ancient times would be also valid in today's time, right?
Yeah.
Not just like modern food, for example.
100%.
Right. Actually, now I think about it, the term modern food doesn't make sense. So like,
right. It's always been ancient, right? Unless we made it like GMOs.
Yeah. So the only other time that I've heard bone setting, or I was introduced to the idea of bone setting, is I knew somebody that had certain issues with her body, and she went to see a Mongolian bone setter, and they were digging into her organs and reorganizing that stuff. But the point being is she went to see other modalities for whether it's a more Western approach. But in her experience, once she saw the Mongolian bone setter, that was like actual relief, actual progress, right? And so I'm not discounting her because she's very intelligent, and so I wouldn't like have any reason to try to second guess her experience, right? But it's just initially hearing about it, it made me feel a certain kind of way because I'm not used to seeing someone just dig into your organs with their hands. You know, it just seems like otherworldly, but it's definitely part of that ancestral wisdom that you're talking about. Yeah. So thank you for bringing it up, and it's really cool that you're able to be open to both worlds and try to like find ways of intersecting, right?
Yeah. Especially because I am an Eastern Western person, right?
Yeah.
That's my family's been in the United States for like since the late 1800s now. So yeah, trying to understand what's happening here and what we can do to help each other. The work that I do, it's really like bloodless surgery. I am moving bone. I'm shifting bone, shifting alignment, shifting disc alignment, which then is going to bring around the fascia, the vessels. Things shift because it's all stuck to our bones, our deepest part of ourselves. And yeah, rearranging, like I'm like a sculptor. I'm like a human sculptor. It's my art.
Yeah, that's really amazing, and I'm thoroughly like inspired to learn more about the world of chiropractic now, just because it's completely different from what I thought it could offer, you know. But I guess this is the work of like making it more accessible, right?
Exactly.
What are some common causes of spinal misalignments at the beginning of life?
Birth, just being born, going through the birthing canal. We've all done it, and some of us have gotten to be the vessel, the portal. Whether you're born at home, whether you're born in the hospital, whether it's a C-section, vaginal, labor is called labor on purpose. It is work, and it is like a rite of passage, right? And so there's challenges that are faced in that moment. And very often, especially if you're being assisted out by a hand or a vacuum out of the vaginal canal or a C-section, you're being pulled. the baby is being pulled. And if you've ever held a newborn, they are like jelly. The bones are hardly formed. Like there's shape, of course, but like it's very soft, and there's not a lot of strength there. So things can be very easily torqued and pulled out of alignment. And then if nobody knows to put it back into alignment, then the baby will just continue to basically grow around it. And so some ways to know that your baby might be suffering from a misalignment from birth is if breastfeeding is anything but optimal. And so that means like if the baby prefers one breast over the other, or if the baby fusses at one boob than the other, or if the baby fusses at the boob in general, or if the baby falls asleep at the boob because they're trying so hard, but then they like get tired and they poop out. Because we're all born with certain survival reflexes to survive and get through the first days. And one of them is to suck. And if a baby is not sucking, now what's happening with sucking, it's a musculoskeletal neurological experience, right? It's an action. And so if the baby cannot do this primal reflex, then that means something's blocking it, right? And so what could be blocking it? It could be the bone, it could be the nerve, it could be the muscle, like whatever it is. But then a pediatric chiropractor would be able to locate that tension around the skull and the jaw, for example, or the neck, and gently release it. And you probably aren't going to hear a pop at all. It's very gentle releases. And then that way their form can be in a better place again. And then the function of sucking can occur. And then mom and baby and family are happy and, growing and at peace.
Wow, it's amazing. Does the spinal misalignment also apply to the mom as well during this whole process?
Yes, absolutely. If a mother's pelvis is severely out of alignment, that can impact her ability to expand and contract during the labor and delivery process. A lot of women experience sciatica or like nerve pain down their butt and their leg during pregnancy because of the shifting of their pelvic alignment. And so as a chiropractor, we'd be able to locate the misalignment pattern, gently start realigning the pelvis so that the nerve pain can go away, the functioning of her walking can come back, which is also going to help with fluid flow into the baby. But then also supporting the canal to be in its optimal space, the birthing canal itself, so the baby can come out with more ease and the mom will have more ease. And then yes, postpartum with what I call breastfeeding back, or baby mom back, just like holding the babies all the time, or parent back, because dads can get it too, or any person, right? Just realigning the spine so that way they can be more upright and enjoy.
Yeah, so the takeaway I'm getting from you is to consider working on consider your alignment both pre and also post-birth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as that can greatly affect your birthing process.
Absolutely. And if we're talking about mental health as well, like with postpartum depression or anxiety, again, it'd be really important, I think, really worthwhile to consider the upper cervical vertebra in the spine, in the woman's spine. Is it out of alignment, leaving her in a survival mode, leaving her in a fight or flight state so that she just is on the edge more? And then with the extra stresses of having a baby and everything, just, really not doing well. And, parents' mental health is so important for the whole family, right? Because it's how the kids understand the world. And helping the whole family then, baby, parent, siblings, to all feel more neurologically regulated and more safe in their bodies, more able and whole.
Yeah, amazing. What would you say? Let's speak a little bit more about the Kaname Chiropractic, right? What's the mission statement and purpose, and what do you hope to achieve and provide for your patients as they come in?
Born and raised here in the East Bay, the Kaname Chiropractic's mission statement is to increase access to holistic healing care for all beings. And so not just healthcare, but healing care to all beings. All people, all ages, infants to elderly, for our furry friends as well, because I have 2 chiropractors in my helm who are animal chiropractors, so they see horses and dogs and cats too. Anyone who's got a spine, this is really like, again, like the ultimate biohack. It's your nervous system. And my hope is to be a part of the pivotal change that people need in their lives to get right back onto the path that they really intend to be on. That their identity of who they are and their dreams are actually more in alignment too, because of their experience through their body. So I have my practice in Castro Valley. I've been practicing for 9 years now. We also just opened up our second location, our second clinic in San Mateo. So that way we're in two parts of the Bay Area because so many Bay Area people are driving all around the Bay. And the point was to be able to offer this like higher level of chiropractic care to more people in our communities. So if you know anybody that might be able to benefit from the work that we do, which is probably a lot of people in your life actually, please reach out to us. You can call us, look us up on our Instagram, our website, and book a consultation, and we can let you know if we find a misalignment in your spine. Ultimately, my hope and dream is to really reframe healthcare, that like we don't need medication. We don't need synthetic chemicals to feel okay, right? We can actually love on ourselves so deeply that where our wellness and wholeness is so high on our priorities and centered in everybody's focus for each other and ourselves, that we actually can like come to a place of healing and together as a community. And so I'm, and not just here in the States, but like really anywhere, because I think it is really valuable to be able to see the spine visually through the x-rays, and that's something that hasn't been done before around the world ancestrally with bone setting. So yeah, my dream is actually really big, and to like be able to educate more about this to all people. They have access to this within themselves.
Yeah, amazing. How can people best support you and or themselves?
Look in the mirror and like really look at what you're seeing and notice each other. Like really look at it. We don't have to keep tiptoeing around the hard things. That maybe right there in the hard thing is where the solution is, the answers.
Beautiful. And how can people best support you?
Oh, you can follow us on Instagram at Kaname Chiropractic. You can leave us, if you are one of our practice members, we would love to hear your miracles that you've experienced in our offices on Yelp and Google reviews. That really helps us to get the word out there more to other people who are looking for help with the same things that maybe you are going through. Reach out to us, send us a message, call us. We teach spinal care classes every single week in our offices. It's free for everyone in the community. You and yours are totally welcome to come through and sit in on a class and, just get some nuggets.
Yeah. And any shout outs you'd like to mention?
Yes. I'd like to shout out my entire crew and staff at Kaname Chiropractic. My staff are amazing. They really hold the whole fort down so that the healers can do what we do. Dr. Cassie Stansberry, she's been my right-hand person for many years now, like I think 5-6 years. And she's the one who's really taken on the lead with opening the San Mateo office. She's the manager there. She runs that office for us. My family, my father for being a chiropractor and just like witnessing me through this growing experience of my own. My mother, because she is a healer in her own right. And, I'm so proud to be of them. My grandparents, because they always taught me about how to love on my body and to stay connected to this vessel and the importance of that. And I want to thank my mentors, all my mentors in my life. Dr. Rebecca Nystrom is a big one. She's magical and, has really been a pivotal part in taking these steps towards being able to offer this service to a lot of people. My son, he's really been my driving force, my inspiration.
Beautiful. And what would you like to close it? Final thoughts for our listeners out there.
Kaname means to pivot, or the heart of change, or the key. And that key is within each of us. It's right behind you. It's right within you. And from that place, we all have the capacity for deep healing and every dream that you wish for. And the signals will just open up and be more clear if the channels are more clear physically too. Kaname's symbol is the snake because of the way that we each have our own internal snake, our central nervous system, and how this tree that we have, it is connected this way, vertically even. But it also symbolizes transformation, growth, shedding, renewal. And I know in this Western context, the snake can be seen as something evil or insidious or dark. But actually, me as an Eastern ancestral person, I really aim to reframe the identity of the snake, the purpose and the role of the snake. That instead of placing judgment on it or on any of us or on ourselves, to be more in a place of acceptance and appreciation and even curiosity of the experience of it existing, of each other's existence. Because I think from that place, it's more compassionate, and that's where we heal from. And so instead of thinking the snake is bad and evil, that actually, what does a snake do? It sheds, and if it doesn't shed, it dies. It has to continue outgrowing itself. It continually does that all its life and existence. And there's the uncomfortable part of letting go. But then there's the beautiful part of renewal, right? And oh, so sparkly on this other side now that I went through the tough part, right? Of facing just truth, the root of disease, the truth of what's happening, what my body is trying to tell me, and that you can grow through it. And it's okay to go through these challenging parts. And that's actually how we grow as beings, spiritually too. And so, yes, it was in a dream that it came to me that I should have the snake be Kaname's logo and symbol. And I was nervous at first, being in this Western context, that people might be shying away from our practice because of that. But no, I'm really standing up now and yeah, this is the reason. And we each have our inner snake, and we each have access to it and our own growth and renewal all the time, transformation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate having you here and looking forward to having you back.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much.